Dan Illman, Mike Beer, taking a peek at race number 6 at Keeneland on Bluegrass Saturday. It's the Grade 3 $300,000 Commonwealth Stakes for some nice older sprinters going 7/8 of a mile. Let's take a look at this field. Several of these horses looking to make their claim in the older sprint division. Minnesota Ready's 5-2 on the morning line, Mike. Now, listen, I don't know where that last race came from. I know it's hard to trust 5.5 furlong Beyer speed figures, but a number came back strong, and he sure looked good. And now I guess we'll find out if he's for real.
Yeah, that's true. Unfortunately, if you were taken by his win last time out with the 102 Beyer, you're going to be asked to take a pretty short price on him here. It's your call whether you want to do that, but he's got something to prove.
Let's throw up our time form US pace projector, because for a sprint race, it's not like there's really a ton of speed in here. Frat Pack showed some speed 2 starts back going 7/8 of a mile. Wico's got a little bit of speed. Richie's on a roll, actually won his last race, a $16,000 starter allowance from off the pace. There's a chance this pace is not going to be hot. That could hurt horses like Manny Wah and potentially the horse coming off the layoff, the 8 Call Me Fast.
Yeah, that's true. It's a big deal. Maybe the bigger deal for Call Me Fast in this race, who not only is off the layoff, but is also cutting way back in distance here. So we'll see how it affects him. I don't know, man. I didn't see this race necessarily being run at a really fast pace, but the 2 horses in the first 2 posts here, 1 and 2, I'm assuming they both want to be forward in this race.
And I think Frat Pack's just got to go in here, as he did in his final start of 2023. Now, he was trained by Chad Brown in that race. I thought he looked pretty good winning with a solid Beyer speed figure. He sold for $240,000 the month after that race. Whit Beckman had him entered in a couple of spots, including a stake at Laurel. And I was talking to him, and they had high hopes for this horse. They had hoped that they could, parlay that stake at Laurel into maybe a berth in the Saudi Sprint. Well, it didn't work out. They showed up in a second level allowance at Oaklawn, and he didn't run very well.
Yeah, he didn't. It'll be interesting, though, to see how much he can improve off of that race, Dan. First of all, he just got outrun in that race. I mean, they rode him from the gate. They went too fast for this horse. He couldn't really keep up. And there was a point when they came into the stretch where I just thought he was going to totally give it up and finish far back. He didn't do that. He actually ran on to the end of that race, which, I don't know, I thought it was kind of encouraging. I feel like this is a really tough spot for him. If I'm being honest, I didn't love him when Chad Brown had him. He ran some fine races there and he had some potential, but I didn't love him. I'd be willing to give him a chance against this field at some kind of huge price. I'd be willing to give him a chance to hit the board maybe at some kind of big price.
I think that's fair, especially because, as you said, he was out sprinted early going 6 last time out. I don't think that's happening here. Going 7 can actually be on or near the lead, and it's not like this graded stakes race is chock full of Breeders' Cup Sprint contenders right now. One of the also-rans from that last race did come back to win a $40,000 option at Hawthorne with an 83 Beyer. Wico is the number 2. This horse ran some good races on dirt, including at Keeneland 3 starts back, winning over the Bid course, a first level allowance. Last time out, they ran him on the synth. I like the fact that he showed some good speed. He got a little bit tired at the end. Maybe this is the pace setter. Irad takes them out.
Yeah, he's got enough speed if they wanted to make the lead. I mean, it did seem like they didn't really want it in those 2 dirt starts at the end of last year. He was forward in those races, but they were content to just sort of sit on the outside and track paces. He's drawn inside this time. They might not have that alternative, Dan. Those 2 races give him some kind of a chance in here. He did get hooked up on the inside last time, and he just got really tired in that race, but maybe he just needed it.
Manny was the number 3, and although he hasn't won since October of 2022, that race was the Grade 2 Phoenix at Keeneland. He always seems to do well at Keeneland. Here's his most recent start, the Tom Fool handicap up at Aqueduct over a sloppy track where he just got wired by the informed Super Chow. Manny Wah, as we mentioned, has a ton of back class. He's closing in on millionaire status. He has a look at this, Mike. He just can't get there, and he's kind of forced to duck to the inside.
Yeah, he is. That's Super Chow's MO there. He likes to drift in the stretch when he's on the lead here. But listen, that's also exactly kind of where Manny Wah wants to finish. He wants somebody to beat him to the line, and then he can be second. His last 2 starts, it's been Super Chow both times on the lead, and not particularly fast paces. I'll say the same thing about Manny Wah that I always say about him, Dan. I'll expect him to show up and run his race. I'm not betting him.
Race Kane, the number 4, looks like a strong contender. He has class. He won the Grade 3 Gotham over a wet track in 2023. He has won sprinting at Keeneland, the Perryville in his start here last fall. And then the Malibu is a race where I'm just really not that interested. It was his final start of the year. They took a shot in a Grade 1. It was a race that just didn't have any pace, and he's not as good as a horse like Speedboat Beach.
Yeah, he was probably ultimately just in way over his head in that race. I would have liked to have seen him do some running in that race. I mean, he was pretty bad. It was almost like he was totally overmatched by those horses and just couldn't keep up. But otherwise, I liked everything that he did as a 3-year-old, Dan, particularly when they finally cut him back. And I get it. He held his own in some longer races throughout the spring and the summer, but to me, he wanted to go shorter. They cut him back in the Perryville. He ran well that day, and I like that they're coming right back in this race off the layoff.
One of the also-rans from the Malibu, a horse that Race Kane finished ahead of, did come back to win for 50 at Santa Anita with an 84 Beyer speed figure. I just thought he was up against it the way that track was playing. All speed all day long. Richie's on a roll is the 5, and he is on a roll. He scored last time out at the Fairgrounds, going 3/4 of a mile, but it was a $16,000 starter allowance race. This is a much tougher spot. He does seem to be in excellent form. His win at FanDuel 2 starts back against fellow Illinois breds, he ran off of the screen. He got a respectable Beyer that if he can run that Beyer against this class of competition, I guess he's somewhere in the mix.
Yeah, it's possible. Last 2 races, if nothing else, are the best races that he's ever run, Dan. I still think he's probably in too tough here.
Beau Cruz is kind of an interesting horse. We like horses generally cutting back to 7 furlongs off 2-turn races. And Beau Cruz's first start off of a lengthy layoff was a pretty decent second-level allowance at the Fairgrounds, and he made it close at the end. I wonder if perhaps he'll be more effective as sort of a stalking sprinter because he shows speed in these middle-distance races. This pace isn't going to be hot. I think a good trip's coming.
Yeah, I like that about him too. It does feel like he's handy enough to maybe handle the cutback and not get totally outpaced early in this race. I don't know. I just thought he was kind of a wild card in here, Dan. I don't really know what to do with him. He's obviously got some talent. Al Stahl was never interested in sprinting this horse at all, though. He stretched him out immediately and kept him around 2 turns throughout last year. So we'll see, how effective he is sprinting. At least he'll be a price in here.
Hear My Song utilized the synthetic to dirt angle to win last year's edition of the Commonwealth at 11-1. And then he overperformed, I thought, when a pace-setting 4th against Cody's Wish in the Grade 1 Churchill Downs. And then he won a stakes race at Ellis Park. And I think after that, you could say he's dirtied up because they tried him a mile at Ellis, and he just made this really premature move in that race before tiring. And then last time out off the long layoff, wasn't that just the prep, just like last year, the big daddy into the Commonwealth?
Yeah, I agree. I'll use this horse mostly for that reason, though, because you're right. Not only did it work last year with the upset, you can go back to 2022. They went Big Daddy to 7 furlongs on dirt at Keeneland, and he just missed pulling off an upset that day, too. So it feels like this is all by design, and it's not like he's meeting a field full of killers here. He can get the right trip in here. I'm using this horse.
If Call Me Fast is ready off the layoff, he is likely the horse to beat just based on his Beyer speed figures. He has just such a huge edge from a Beyer standpoint, a huge edge from a class standpoint, running in races like the Essex and the Benelli and the Blame and running very competitively, albeit in longer distance races. We haven't seen him since August, however. So this is a pretty long layoff, and maybe the pace works against him a bit. But 8-1 on a horse that maybe has just the fastest string of Beyers in this field, it seems like a good value.
Yeah, that's how I looked at him too. I wonder if he's going to be unable to keep up with the pace in here, Dan, going 7 furlongs, because it's not like he was a slow horse early on. His last couple of races, they've sort of been taking him back and making one run. And I just remember the Cornhusker in particular, but even the Blame, this horse making huge runs off the turn and then just flattening out like a horse who just didn't want to go that far. I love this horse cutting back in this kind of a race, and I love this spot in particular for him. It's just all about whether he's ready off the left. 8-1 to me is a great price.
The 9 Minnesota Ready earned a couple of stakes placings over the winter on turf at the Fairgrounds. He then sold in the Laufenbach Dispersal for $380,000. Tom Amos got him, ran him in an off-turf stakes, the Colonel Power. He wins with a 102 Beyer speed figure, just a race that just comes out of nowhere. Amos could have run this horse in the Shakertown on turf, where he's had a lot of success going 5.5, which arguably is his distance. Yeah. He's going to try him 7. And I guess if you're ever going to find a spot to try a horse like this in a grade stake, it's this one.
Those things are all true, Dan. It's just, again, it's unfortunate that if you want to try him, you got to try him as the favorite. And personally, I don't want to try him as the favorite here. I like his last race was really good, visually impressive, fast. He beat a couple of good horses too. I'm not betting him if he's the favorite in here.
Let's throw up our top picks for the Commonwealth. I think if he can run back to that last race, and I think he's going to, I think he's the most likely winner in here. But at the odds, I think Call Me Fast might be the bet. He's my second choice in this race. The layoff and perhaps the lack of pace is a concern, but maybe he's fresh off the bench and can just stay close and then just use his class to wear him down.
That's what I was hoping. I actually kind of like this horse cutting back in distance, but we'll see if he needs one off the layoff here because that's obviously a bigger concern. I just think he fits right in here, and if he's ready to go, this is a field he can beat. He's a very fair price on the morning line, in my opinion. I got Race Kane in there too, Dan. I just think he's a good horse. He deserves a chance to rebound out of the Malibu.
No, I want to use Race Kane as well in any kind of multiple race wagers. Likes this track. Just didn't think he had a chance last time out the way that race was run against that quality of competition. 8417 for Mike, 9847 for me. It's the Grade 3 Commonwealth. Very competitive race on a competitive Saturday afternoon of racing at Keeneland. It's Bluegrass Saturday. Good luck.